No, this is important. These things need to be said. I mean, these people, they want to end Israel. And isn't that the worst thing? To threaten to wipe a country off the map? To threaten to destroy a country? It's so much worse than, I don't know, actually destroying a country. Much worse than bombing refugee camps and hospitals. You're right. It's worse to threaten a country with a watermelon. I mean, what could be worse? Do you know what? You're right. I know nothing about this situation. I don't read the newspapers. The fact of the matter is, you are right. I should just break up with Rachel before this engagement lunch. She deserves so much better.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Edmonds. I'm the editor-in-chief of For Page and Screen magazine. I'm here today with Andrew Riddles, author of The Pin, also known as The Badge, that we had the pleasure of publishing in our ninth issue. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so excited to talk about this play. You're doing so much with it too, which we'll get into. We'll start with the basics first. So what inspired you to write this script?
Oh, I mean, it concerns Palestine and the situation at the moment. But some of the things that are brought into the play, if you see the clip that I just recorded, about the concept that it's so much worse to be threatening Israel than it is that Palestine was essentially destroyed in 1948. Somehow that is not as bad. So that has been going around in my brain. I'm going to show my age by saying that has been in my mind for about 40 years since I first started kind of being interested in this subject and uh, being an activist around this subject.
Yeah, I love that. And there's this really interesting conversation, I think, to be had about symbolism and kind of the power of language because it is kind of this, there's so much rhetoric, I guess, is the nice way of putting it, propaganda, if I want to not be nice about
Mhm.
it, about kind of the harm that is done to talk about the actual violence that Israel is committing and how talking about it is seen as almost an equal sin. And it's really weird to think about it in that way and terrible when you lay it out like that, to think
Yes.
about it in that way. So I love
Yeah.
how you're playing with that in here. And you mentioned you're an activist in this issue on this cause. So I would love to hear a bit about your activism work and how that kind of pairs with your writing in general, if not just in this play.
Um, I mean, this is a very specific example of being going hand in hand in something I have been involved with since I was like 16 years old. Uh, my activism at the moment involves actually printing a lot of stickers and giving out a lot of stickers to people in my home city, the city where I live, Ottawa. I've printed and distributed about 20,000 stickers and stuck them around the city to kind of just keep this in the forefront of everyone's mind. And the play, I'm not a Palestinian and I can't write from the point of view of a Palestinian. I can't write a play about what it's like to be on the receiving end of a genocide, but I can write about being a Western male, middle class person who has some agency in their life and can choose to do something about it. And when he's confronted with the ridiculousness of the situation, he pushes back. And the character in the play is sort of disingenuous in that he pretends to the other main character that he has no idea what this is about. Like why he's wearing, it's called the pin because he's wearing a watermelon pin on his shirt when he goes into um, a restaurant to meet his family, his partner's family. It's their engagement lunch, and his partner's family are all Jewish, and so he's kind of pretending that he's appalled at his own behavior. Like, oh my God, I'm wearing a symbol of anti-Semitism. I knew nothing about this, but in fact, he knows all about it, and he's just sort of pushing the waiter at the restaurant to emphasize the ridiculousness of the situation. And the other part of the sort of activism piece is that I go to a lot of demonstrations, and there are so many Jewish people there who are advocating for Palestine, who are extremely appalled that things are being done in their name. And I just wanted to highlight that fact. And the character's fiance arrives, and she is in fact wearing a T-shirt with a huge watermelon on the front saying "Jews for Palestine." And I just wanted to like recognize my friend, underline the fact that I have many friends who are Jewish and who are opposed to this, horrific situation.
Yeah, and I love that because so often, especially I feel like very recently, in the more recent few years, there has been a conflation with people speaking out against Israel and having that being labeled as being anti-Semitic. And they're two very different things. And so many people who are Jewish, and I have so many um, friends who are Jewish and they're like, no, this is ridiculous. Like, don't support them in our name. Like, this is not helping us. This is not what we want either. So absolutely, I love that kind of, it sounds weird to call it a twist at the end. The way you have it framed in the play is definitely more like a twist, narratively, but I love how you have that represented there and that kind of like, let's think about who you're actually supporting and who you're actually defending in this situation because it's not the people you always say that it is.
Exactly, and it can, I mean, it can have the alternate effect where, like, if this is associated with all Jewish people, then when a crime is committed against humanity, then that is putting them into a very dangerous situation as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Now, in your experience, and this is, I apologize, this is less about the writing and more about the issue, so I apologize for being a little
Mm.
off topic here. Um, but what have you kind of noticed about the way, because you had mentioned putting up stickers and kind of speaking out in support of Palestine just to keep people aware of it and keep it in the forefront of their minds. I'm curious about what you've noticed about the way people's attention kind of wanes, because I know I personally first kind of became aware of it, I guess, in 2008 was the first time that I really started digging into the history of it. And I definitely
Mm.
know, like, I was learning about this, and like, no one else knows this is happening or has happened or
Right.
is existing for the
Yeah.
longest time. So I'm curious your experience looking back.
Yeah. So in many, like at the moment, there's a bit of a decline in attention to the subject. I mean, things have shifted to yet another war, and uh, civilians being killed in other places. It's all part of one thing, I think. But what I have generally noticed, literally my first pro-Palestinian demonstration was in 1986. So what I've noticed, and that was in London, where I'm from, it was hard to get people onto the streets and to support these things. I was at demonstrations with like 100 people, and that's in a city of 8 million people, which has a large Arab population. It was very difficult to get people motivated and mobilized. At the same time as we could get 500,000 people onto the streets to campaign about South Africa and apartheid. Very difficult to get people to do the same around Israeli apartheid. So in some ways, it's like so moving to see, to go to a demonstration in a city like Ottawa, which is not the most radical city in the world, and see literally tens of thousands of people on the street, thousands of Palestinian flags. It's been a real shift, I think, in my experience. It's nowhere near enough because it's the politicians who have to, the people with the money and the power who have to actually do something right. And as we know, they're very bad at doing that. So, it's certainly a shift in the groundswell of opinion. And I think that the good thing about that is that eventually it will mean that there will be um, a lack of support for apartheid in Israel, and that will force a shift in some way.
Hopefully, hopefully, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's definitely good to hear a positive increase in just kind of general public awareness and public opinion for sure.
Yeah, and like going to, I go to the States quite a bit, going to New York, and seeing, Palestinian flags on the streets of New York, demonstrations. Like I went to a demonstration in Washington, um, Square Gardens, and it was just almost miraculous to see a pro-Palestinian demonstration in the heart of New York City. Yeah, so those things are encouraging.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. Have you kind of, I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this question when it comes to the pin slash the badge because it has a different British English title
Yes.
as well. So it has two titles. Um, ha what is the reception of the script been and of the play? I'd love to talk about like what the industry perspective is, I guess, if you're seeing
Uh,
support for it in the same way.
yeah. So, I've been sending it out to both for publication, and you picked it up. Thank you very much. Um, and to be produced, and it was picked up by you, and because of the nature of the publishing and theatre public, I live in Canada, but my large market is the USA, so I send it to several places in the USA, and I was like, I don't know, like I know things have changed, attitudes are changing, but I don't know that anyone's gonna be brave enough to pick it up. Well, Sarah Edmonds is. So yeah, that was encouraging. In fact, I had two offers of publication on the same day, both from American outlets, so that was wonderful. And then yeah, it was picked up in Britain by a festival called Ink Festival. They are in their 10th year. They're a huge short play festival, so 70 plays. Some fairly well-known people are involved in it. Richard Curtis, who wrote Four Weddings and a Funeral and Notting Hill and those kind of things. He had a play in the festival this year, so it's not a minor festival. And I went to the festival. The director and actors had completely found, what I had intended. So they were really, they loved the play, they told me, and they did a wonderful job. And the response from the audience was just incredible. Like people, it wasn't just if I told someone that I had written this play, they were like, "Oh, I loved it." People were coming to me to find me to say, "We really loved your play," including a member of the Jewish Board of Deputies, which is the kind of governing body of Judaism in the UK. And she was really, really supportive of the play and said, these attitudes have to change. And so I was very heartened by that. And people also really loved, as you described it earlier, as the twist in the story at the end, which I hadn't really thought of it as a twist until I watched the play. I'd never seen it performed. I'd never actually had time to do a reading, like a staged reading or anything. So it's the first time I saw it performed, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is kind of, I guess people aren't as sure where this play is going to go because it's basically two men having this back and forth. And then it's resolved in by the arrival of this guy's fiance at the end. So I was very happy with how it's been received, that it's been uh, published by you, and that it was picked up by this big festival, and the audiences seemed to love it. And it was sold out every time, performed 11 times, and yeah,
That's amazing. That's so,
yeah,
so cool. Now I'm curious. I'm gonna ask you lots of questions about the festival just because I find
okay.
them fascinating. Um, but I'm curious, how does the festival function? You said it was performed 11 times. Is there like a set number of performances per play in the festivals? It kind of,
Yeah.
I just don't know how they work personally, so I'm curious.
Yes. So this particular festival, it's very interesting because they pull together a casting, they do a casting call and they pull together a lot of actors in London mainly, and they have them read and they basically say, okay, you're in, but then they allocate plays to these particular actors. So this is I was just blown away by the acting. They perform four plays in a site in each performance. So my play was followed by three other plays with like a 20-30 second break in between. And so the actors literally go off from my play having used American accents, and they did a way better job than I could ever do. And then they come back on and perform a completely different style of play. They all did different accents in all four plays in that cycle. So it was just amazing to me, like four different plays by four different authors, the same three actors. So the festival puts together like, okay, these four plays have two men and one woman sort of identified as a cast. So they put two male actors and a female actor together, and they rehearse and perform these plays. Yeah, so it's kind of cool, and it's one of these festivals that is very big, but in a very small place. So it's in a village in the middle of Suffolk in eastern England, and the village is maybe 1,000 people or 2,000 people, but it's mobbed with theatre goers, and you kind of walk around, you see one set of plays, and then you dash to the other end of the village to a different venue to see a different set of plays, and you kind of spend all day running around. It's a lot of fun.
That sounds like an amazing time. Oh my gosh, I just
Yeah.
want to run around and see all of the plays. That
And the
sounds
people were just lovely. Everybody, the organizers, the main director of the festival just had time for everybody and like always wanted to stop and chat. And the actors, the director, everyone was so nice.
Mhm, mhm. That's wonderful. That's so cool.
I'm still
Um,
wearing my armband, my little wristband to get me into the place.
Perfect, perfect. Those types of wristbands, they're so hard to get off. Um,
Yeah.
and now this is not your first time having a play produced, correct? This is what you do. You write scripts, you have things
Um,
produced.
Yeah, for
Mhm,
not to earn money, as I'm sure most playwrights know, it's not a way to. It's kind of a way to lose money because I'm seem to be traveling a lot to go and see my own work. Um, no, I have now had plays in three countries: Canada, the US, and Britain. Um, but I've not been writing plays very long. My first play was 2 years ago, in fact, at the Fringe in Ottawa, um, a play called Bisexual, spelled Bysexual, about sex work and the effects of on a retired couple when a husband asks if he can um, uh, avail himself of the services of a sex worker and how his wife sort of responds to that and how it leads her on her journey. So that was my first play 2 years ago, and that was an amazing experience.
mhm.
Uh, Put together a cast of five people and a crew of five or six of us, and won a Best in Festival award and sold out every night and had a great time. Yeah,
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, that's
yeah,
fantastic. What a way to kind of break out on the scene. That's fantastic.
yeah. It's interesting because I mean, I've kind of written all my life on and off short stories and other, little projects. And I often, I'm sure there's a lot of us like this. We write something, we get 90% of the way, we send it to a few places, and maybe it's accepted, maybe it's not. And then it gathers dust on your hard drive. Theatre is just kind of the opposite of that, where it's becomes the property of several other people quite quickly, and then you have no control. Like it doesn't matter if you drop out or you you decide you don't want to be involved. It's other people have taken it and are running with it. So it's this really lovely experience of community and and creativity, which I hadn't experienced before. And now I'm kind of addicted to. So,
Well, you preempted my next question a little bit. I was going to ask if you ever find it kind of difficult to let go of that control or kind of pass the torch, if you will.
um, I've basically discovered very quickly in my theatre journey, which is not very long, that if somebody suggests a change to you, that 99% of the time it's an improvement. And so from day one, I've just been like, I'll let it go, unless there's something really, if I feel it's really fundamental to the story or to a character,
Mhm.
then I will stick my ground. But generally, I'm just like, you're improving it. Actors make suggestions. I'm a big believer in rehearsals, every rehearsal being a workshop of your play. And it just improves the process all along. Like sometimes, I co-directed Bisexual with a wonderful actor and director called Elle Atson, and we would be rehearsing, and she'd say, Andrew, I'm just thinking about this line here, and I would say, and how perfect it is, and doesn't need any changes, and she'd say, yes, but, and then we would discuss it, and an improvement would be made. So.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that's one thing that I think like fiction writing simple short stories really misses out on. Eventually we get some of that feedback, some of that collaborative process once we reach editing, but even then it's still such a small, you're working with one, two, maybe three editors along the way when it comes to
Yeah.
fiction. It's certainly not the whole cast, whole production collaboration that you get when you get theater.
And the other thing is that you're not generally sitting around someone when they're reading your story, whereas you can sit in the theater and watch people react, and hopefully, if it's a comedy, laugh and or cry or whatever the response you hope for will happen. Occasionally, people boo, and that's also fun. If you're in Canada and you write into a play criticism of things like camping or canoeing, someone in the audience will boo.
Good to know. Key advice.
But that was kind of what I wanted to achieve, so I was happy.
Perfect, perfect. Oh my gosh. So since like you said, you kind of started script writing a little recently, what made you decide to go on this journey? What led you to the script as the form of writing?
Well, we have a really great Fringe festival in Ottawa. It gets bigger every year. It's now bilingual, French and English. Was English just English for several years. It's now around 30 years it's been going. The year we had our production at 2024, there were 53 productions, so it's a big festival. And I'd been several times in my years living in Ottawa. I went in 2023, and there was some really great plays there. And then there were some shows where I was like, I could probably do as well as this. So I'm gonna give it a go. And I saw a really great play by an American playwright called Martin Dockery, who comes to Ottawa Fringe quite often. And he put on a play in 2023, and it was like a packed house. Everybody loved it. And I was just like, oh, I would just love to be able to do this just as wouldn't it be amazing to fill a theater and have people laughing and emoting at your work? And 12 months later, I did it. And me and Martin both won Best in Festival awards. And I have a photo of me holding my award and him holding his. So it's kind of, it was a big inspiration to me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love just the let's go do it and then you succeed. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I
cool.
found a group of people who were just willing to jump in. We had actors who'd never been to Fringe Festival. We had me and my co-director had never directed a play. We'd never produced a play. We did everything. my partner printed T-shirts for the Indiegogo campaign. I designed the posters and the postcards. Yeah, it was just a big group effort and so enjoyable.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I wonder if we could maybe I keep looking to the side because I have your biographical statement from our issue up on the screen so
Oh,
I can like
yes.
double
Okay.
check things. Um, so I was curious, I'm trying to figure out which I want to ask you about first. We'll go with writing
Okay.
process first. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about kind of your writing process. Once you have this idea, how do you determine, oh, I want this to be a play, oh, I want it to be fiction, and kind of like where do you go from there?
Oh, yeah. Now I'm really just always looking for um, stories for plays. I do write some short fiction still for publication and a little bit of non creative nonfiction. But basically, as I'm always telling people, 95% of my time is not writing. It's looking for opportunities, editing for opportunities, submitting to opportunities, and maybe 5% of the time I get to write a play. And my process is really, I'm a morning person. I get up early in the morning and I write before my day job. And hopefully produce something that is worthwhile. But again, a lot of the time is actually spent early in the morning reading through opportunities and descriptions of festivals and what they're looking for, and seeing if I have something to fit that. And sometimes I have a play that if they don't mind having a play that's already been produced, I'll edit it slightly because they want it to be under 10 minutes and the previous version was 13 minutes, so I have to kind of cut a little bit out or make it longer sometimes. Yeah. But my process is basically I have ideas floating around in my head until one day I start writing it down and hopefully produce something, and then of course editing and rewriting and sending it to people to look at and getting feedback.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I know the query submission application process, all of that takes so much time. I'm convinced it takes more time than the actual writing. It's
Yeah,
like a whole other
definitely for
job.
me. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. No, absolutely. Um, so you mentioned kind of sending your work out, getting feedback. Do you have kind of like a set team of readers? You get their opinion first before you send it out, like formally, or do you just kind of whoever wants it?
Yeah, basically whoever wants it wants it. Like a couple of actors that I've worked with, a director in the States called Sean Rogers, who I was in a competition with in New York at the end of 2024. We send each other our work to look at. He produced a film last year and he sent me his script. We were talking about producing a play in New York, actually, would have been later this summer. And I sent him a script and he was like, this is in no way ready to be produced. So he's brutally honest, which is great. Um, but yeah, really, whoever wants to read it. And then I'll try and do a read, like have actors together to perform a reading as well to sort of workshop it, or at least for me to hear it out loud. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Having that kind of the read is a really, really helpful part. I mean, I haven't done actual stage writing in ages. But even just with screenplays, short films, having other people read the dialogue back and hear how this would play and how it would kind of like bounce around is such a key
Yeah.
thing with editing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Definitely. So I am curious. I'm going to jump to the second. I'm jumping around a little bit. I apologize.
Okay.
Um, but I see on your biographical statement that you were an artist in residency for 3 months in Berlin. I'm not going to attempt to say where in Berlin because I will butcher it. I was
Das
wondering.
Institut für alles Mögliche, which is the Institute for Better Ways, Better Things. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about that. Artist in residence can mean, I feel like it can mean anything. I have a friend who does fine art, and they were artists in residence creating little bug art books. And I imagine that's not what you were doing. So I'm
No,
curious kind of what you were
but
doing, what that constituted, what that was like.
yeah, the residence in Berlin, it's a fairly sort of out there kind of organization. They're pretty avant-garde. And there were three of us in residence in the fall, a video maker, a photographer, sculptor, and myself, and I was writing. So basically, I applied with the idea of rewriting a play that I'd already written and performed stage reading of in a festival. I did an online production. The festival was based in New York, but I did the online section of it. And it needed work, so I rewrote that in the fall. And it was a great experience. My fellow artists and the folks running the residency were just great, so encouraging and helpful. And it's just nice to be away from your day job and be able to talk about art and writing. And I joined a writing group. I'd spent time in Berlin before, and I was in a writing group. And so I rejoined that writing group, and it's a big pool of people who meet every day. Sometimes it's 8 people, sometimes it's 20 people. And so I got to talk about writing a lot, which was also very helpful. And I did what I intended to do. I rewrote my play, which is called Mazzalatura, and I rewrote it. And at some point, I will hopefully have it produced somewhere.
Mhm. Hopefully, I will keep my fingers crossed for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Mhm. Yeah, I feel like residencies in general are such an underutilized thing. So many people just are unaware of the opportunities they can
Yeah.
provide, and they're such wonderful, wonderful like opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to be in a particular place in life where you can do it.
Mhm.
This one wasn't paid, so I had to sort of get there and, pay for my um, meal. I had to eat and survive. But and I have a job where I can take time off for the 3 months. It's part of our agreement that we're allowed to do that. So you have to be lucky or in a fortunate position. But yeah, I mean, I would encourage people to do that if they can. It's just you just removing yourself from your everyday life and the kind of chores that go with that and having a 9 to 5 job. It's really really frees you up in so many ways.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. As well as the kind of creative atmosphere that just surrounded pe by people who are working on their craft that you mentioned as well. Just
Yeah, and I know I'm not a professional artist, but I was in there with two professional artists, uh, a video installation artist called Davey, and a photographer called Camille, photographer and sculptor, and just like it's kind of nice to be talking, having conversations about art with actual professionals, and it kind of makes me feel like a little bit more, I don't know, authentic or something. Like I can hold my own in those conversations, and hopefully I'm helpful to them as they are to me.
mhm, mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of your professional standing in script writing, I would love to talk about I have notes off screen as well. If I look down, that's
Okay.
also one thing. Notes are everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to talk about what I believe is an upcoming project for you, Third Party Blameless, with the off Broadway debut.
Yes, my off Broadway debut. Yeah, so Third Party Blameless. It's kind of it's a play I wrote in 2024. Actually, I wrote it in New York City. Um, and I wrote it because for an opportunity in a magazine in Hawaii, and their prompt was road rage, and that was the only prompt. It wasn't published by the magazine in Hawaii, but I submitted it to a festival in kind of suburban New York and miraculously got in. So I cast it in New York. I rehearsed it remotely, and then I went down there for the festival, and we miraculously got into the final. I hadn't occurred to me. So the following week I had to go back to New York, and then we won. So it was kind of a really great experience. I was very lucky. The summer that I wrote it, it was at a theatre event in New York, and I met an actor called Renee Nicole Powell, and she played the lead in the play, and the play is 95% this female character talking about her marriage. And I worked with two other actors, Carrie Telsford and Ron Yu, who are just excellent, very committed, all three of them. Rennie Nicole Powell is now in an off-Broadway play called Dad Don't Read This, which is doing very well and is getting good write-ups in the New York Times. But so I produced it that time, and then I got it into a online festival based in New Jersey, and produced it with a online, wholly online. So my actors were in Ottawa, but were always on Zoom. So we produced it that way, and that won Audience Choice Award for Best Play in that festival. And now it's been accepted into a festival called The One, which is one character plays. So what I'm actually producing now for this festival in June is an adaptation of my own play where the main character, who had 95% of the lines anyway, is the only character on stage. And so she sort of is talking. And I'm working now with an actor who's based in Brooklyn, Jada Rojas, and she's doing an excellent job of becoming this woman who is basically standing at the side of the road. The theme was road rage originally, and so her husband is having an argument with the guy who's just rear-ended their car, even though it was the husband's fault. And the main character starts off like defending her husband. That wasn't his fault. That was clearly not my husband's fault. And then as time goes on, and she's like witnessing him yell at this other guy and comparing it to how he's treated her through their marriage, she has a she's on a trajectory during this 10-minute play, and she ends up in a very different place at the end from where she was at the beginning.
I love that. And I love kind of the scene as the vehicle, slight pun intended, for her
Yeah.
character
Yeah.
arc there. Absolutely. And that's really interesting how you've kind of taken it and adapted it from for this magazine, four different festivals now to a one man play, one woman play.
Yeah.
Um, and do you find those kind of adaptations challenging? Do you enjoy them? What's your opinion on all of those?
Yeah, sometimes they're challenging. It would be very much more difficult to take a play. A lot of my plays are three-handers or four-handers, and the characters have equal weight. Like Matt's Latura is three characters on stage for the entirety of the play, and they all have more or less the same number of lines. It would be very difficult to take that and make it into a one-person version of that story. But this play, Third Party Blameless, it started off with her being the main character, and really I would say 95% of the lines. So it's easier. It's still difficult because she has to basically react to things that are going on without the audience hearing them. So it's that's the sort of challenge. But it's the challenge for me. For the actor, Jada Rojas, she's just excellent, and I don't have to worry about it really. She's responding. She knows how to respond. She's an actor, so. But it's a challenge. It would be difficult with most of the things I've written to adapt them in that way.
Mhm. Definitely. And that's really wonderful that you found an actor who can kind of take that on and be so wonderful with it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, she's great, and she's very what I really love when I'm working with actors is if they love the play, and that just solves 99% of the problems. Like they if they like it, they're committed to it and they do a great job.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Now you've mentioned a couple of times helping to direct and produce things online, rehearse things online. What is that experience like, handling things remotely like that? I'm assuming there are lots of different challenges.
There are different challenges. So the first time, for example, the first time I produced Third Party Blameless, I cast it in New York, but I was in Ottawa. And so, yeah, we started off with people in their own homes, and then eventually I rented space for them to be in, and I was on someone's cell phone, watching them, and I would kind of yell things. And to add to it, the three cast members, one was in Brooklyn, one was in Chelsea, and one was in Harlem. So completely, miles from each other. And one of the challenges, the two guys, one lived in Harlem, one lived in Chelsea, they decided to meet in Central Park to do a rehearsal with me on cell phone. And they're arguing that they only ever argue, these two guys in the play. So at one point they're like, Andrew, we have to keep it down a bit because people are staring, like people keep looking and we don't want them to call the police. But yeah, it's different. It's a different type of production, or a different type of rehearsal process. Um, in Ottawa in the middle of winter, it's really nice to not have to go to a place to rehearse and get three people to travel across the city and snow drifts and blizzards. So also has advantages.
Absolutely. That would be I'm just picturing the Central Park scene, and that sounds hilarious and so funny. Glad that no one called authorities.
Yes.
Um,
I might
definitely.
write a play just about that at some point.
Mhm. No, absolutely. Actually, this is a weird tangent that is completely unrelated to everything, but I overheard people talking in a Panera one time, and they were planning staging an argument in their church to just see how their pastor would respond. And I'm just like, why? I don't, that could be a play, I guess. It
Yeah,
was very
yeah.
odd. But yeah, no, no, fantastic. It was really interesting seeing the different kind of like vehicle of online rehearsal on stage, kind of, especially in the Zoom era, and how people sometimes
Yes.
do produce things for kind of plays, but through video. I
Yeah.
guess
The
yeah.
the festival in New Jersey that was is wholly online. They do various things through the year, but one of the things they do is an online festival, which they started in 2020, obviously, and they actually enjoyed the fact that they got plays from all around the world, so they've continued with it. But that is different from rehearsing a play remotely and then putting it on in a theater, which is what we did with Third
Mhm,
Party Blameless the first time. The online production, the festival records it, but again, my actors were in their own homes, and we had a like Zoom background that I designed that was
mhm,
basically the side of the road with two cars crashed behind them. And so, yeah, it's a different thing. You're not physically moving around. The actors have to respond in particular ways and make sure they're looking in the right direction when they're talking to a character, which on Zoom, people move around sometimes. So we had to work out that challenge. But yeah, it was fun, definitely fun. And yeah, it kind of allows you sometimes to, I could use an actor who's sort of from Ottawa, but he actually lives 70 miles away. So in February, when we're rehearsing that, you do not want to be driving 70 miles twice a week for rehearsal. So it enables things, I guess.
mhm, mhm. Definitely, definitely. So I'm just curious if you could pick your favorite thing about the whole process from you have an idea to it is now produced and people are watching it. What is your favorite part of the process?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of people love opening night and they love sitting in the audience, and I do love that. But um, I sort of said this the first time we met to produce my first play, our first rehearsal for Bisexual. I was like, I can go to the theater and spend like $100 or $200 to see people perform, but I love rehearsals so much because I get to see such great acting repeatedly for hours on end for free. And I just love it. It's also improving my work every time, so that's an advantage. But it's just kind of like a real indulgence to be sitting there watching great actors for hours on end. And it's kind of a little bit of ego, like they're here because of you, but it's also just like these people are great, they're great at what they do, and I love to see it. And I also like kind of carrying on from that, like that first production I did, there were 10 of us, I think, altogether, a cast and crew, and we formed a, Instagram chat group at the time, and that group, like nearly 3 years later, is still very busy with us congratulating each other, encouraging each other when someone's got a rehearsal or an audition rather, or if they've got an opening night or someone's making a film. And I'm just so proud of like that group of people that they're so supportive of each other and that we kind of built this thing together. Yeah, it's just like heartwarming and very endearing.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. I love that. I love the focus. The community is there, and the community is an amazing part of any area of theater, film, all of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. So yeah, I'm curious if you have any other upcoming projects to share, anything else you want to announce, you want our readers to, or listeners in this case, to keep an eye out for.
Well, at the moment, the only thing that I have coming up is the monologue version of Third Party Blameless at the One Festival, Teatro Circolo in the East Village, 19th to 21st of June. And people can go to my website, andrewriddles.com, and there's a link to tickets there. They're $20 online.
Perfect. Yeah, and we can link that as well. We can link to pretty much anything you want to mention.
Okay.
So we'll link your website, and if there are any other places our listeners can find you or anything else that you want to share, I'd be happy to include that, or you could tell us about it too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my Instagram is Andrew Riddles Writes, so I'll send you that so you can put that on there too if you like. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. We have little description boxes, and I have all the power to put in there whatever I want. It's wonderful. Awesome, awesome. Then I think that leads me to my last question for you today. I ask it of everyone. People are probably sick of hearing it at this point. But if you could give advice to other writers or other people looking to enter this industry, what advice would you give them?
I would say three things, which are submit, submit, submit. Like, I don't think I'm a great writer, but I certainly submit a lot of stuff, and eventually someone will give in and give you an opportunity. Honestly, I submitted maybe 120 times last year. And I have what I think is a high percentage, it's probably like 9% success rate, with, being published in journals and magazines, being accepted for festivals. You know, I did two festivals last year and two this year so far, so I'm pretty happy with that. Two the year before, so but like you will not be produced or published if you do not send your work out, and I do that quite systematically. I subscribe to two services that send me lists of opportunities. One is free, New York City Playwrights, and the other is a paid subscription called Play Submission Helper. And they are invaluable. Like I find all my sort of most of my opportunities there. And another online service called Chill Subs, which is sort of a very cool submission list of submission places, which is where I found for Patient Screen.
Yes, yes, I love chill subs. They're still relatively new. I remember when we
Yeah.
were added there, I'm like, I can actually control this. Amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you actually preempted my follow-up question. I was going to ask where you find your festivals to submit to, if there was a database or not. So you read my mind.
Yeah. Play submission helper. I mean, it's I don't know, $10 a month, but it's invaluable to me, certainly. It's mainly the States, but I also found the Ink Festival in the UK where I was just produced. I found that in there as well. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for that advice and for being here chatting with me today. I know I kind of grilled you a little bit.
No, not at all.
Um,
Thank you, Sarah. It's so enjoyable. Nice to meet you as well.
yeah, yeah, it's nice to meet you too. I feel like I always email everyone. I'm like, I have no idea what any of these people look like. So it's nice to
Right,
actually
right.
chat
Yeah,
and get to know you a little bit. So thank you so much for being here today.
great. Thank you.